The third loop half double crochet is the perfect way to add texture to your crochet project. Today I'm going to walk you through step by step how to create this pretty stitch for your next project. So grab your hook and yarn. This is Solo Stitching. I'm Lavina Perry. Let's stitch. I used the third loop half double crochet in a tutorial I did on how to create a crocheted pumpkin. You can get the link to that up at the top on the right hand side if you would like to see that full tutorial. It had such a positive response I decided to do a full tutorial just on this stitch so that you could see how it's used on a different project and be able to use it on whatever project you want. So let's get started. I'm going to be using a size 5 bulky yarn, and I'm using a size K 6.5 millimeter hook, and I'm going to go ahead and just do a slip knot, and I'm going to chain 12. All right, so there's my 12 stitches for this sample that I'm going to make. And this yarn is, I believe it's a Lion's brand, but it does separate quite easily. And I think when you get into the bulkier yarns, that tends to be, in my experience, a little more of an issue. But just so you know, while we're working with this, it does tend to separate a little bit. It's not the easiest yarn to work with. You can do this with any size yarn that you want. If you are just practicing, you can go ahead and use a smaller weight of a yarn, maybe like a medium synthetic that stays together, that would be easier to work with, just as a note on this. And you can use any size hook and yarn for this. I like the bulky for this stitch because it does just give it so much texture and shows the details really well. So to start, I am going to yarn over, and I'm going to be working into the third chain, and I'm going to do my stitches in the back loop of the chain stitches just so that it gives it a nicer finish. You can work into the front of the stitches if that's easier for you. It's really just a personal preference. So I'm going to start in the third chain from the hook, and I'm working into this back loop on the back of the chain stitch. So we're going to do half double crochets. So I've yarned over, and I am going to work through this loop, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and finish the half double crochet. So we're just doing regular half double crochets all the way down this row to get started. And a regular half double crochet, if you don't know, is, I'll just walk through that since we're already here doing these. So it's yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. And we're just going to repeat that all the way down. So yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. All right, this is our last half double crochet into that last back loop. Yarn over and pull through all 3. So the interesting thing about the half double crochet is that it is unique in that it provides us with an extra loop that we do not have in other stitches. So if we're doing a double crochet or a single crochet, we don't get this third loop on the stitch. So we can see the stitching here would be like a hat, like a single crochet, and then we get this added third loop. And that is the loop that we're going to be working into for this project. So I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to turn. And I'm going to start by doing a single crochet. And then we're going to start working our third loop half double crochets by working into this third loop. So if you can see the row here, we have our top two loops here, and then we have a third loop right here. Okay? And that's the loop that we're going to be working into. So we would normally go right in between the stitches, right? Rather than doing that, we're going to be moving down and we're going to be inserting into the third loop. And that's what's going to give us the texture. So I'm going to yarn over because we're still working our half double crochets, but rather than working them through the top two loops like we would normally do if we were just stitching regular rows, for the third loop half double crochet, we're going to utilize this unique third loop on the half double crochet. So yarn over and insert through the third loop, pull up a loop, and pull through all three. And we're going to continue to work that all the way down the row, working through that third loop. Okay, so don't make the mistake of going into this loop here. We want to make sure that we're grabbing, if we pull it apart so we can see this really well. So we're not working in the top, we're not working in the bottom, we're working in that middle loop, which is the third loop. Inserting the hook, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through all three. Yarn over, insert through the third loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all three, all the way to the end of the row. And then we're going to end the row with a single crochet. And I'm going to be working into this chain stitch where I have my starting chains. So let me just have a look at this. So there's the two loops of the chain stitch there, and that would be the back loop right there. So I'm going to try to work right into that and the second loop. If I can squeeze my hook in there. There we go. And pull up a loop and finish that the single crochet. And then I'm going to chain one and I'm going to turn. So what we've done, what we've created is almost like a little shelf, right? So that both of the top loops of our stitch are showing, because we've worked into the back loop. Once we turn, and we can see the nice ridge there of the two loops. So what you're seeing right here are these two top loops from the stitch. They actually move to the front as you're working into this third loop. So it's creating these rows of really pretty texture on your project. So once we have that first row done, you can see what this is going to look like going forward. So you're still going to see this hole where we would normally insert our hook if we were working through the top of the stitch, which is traditional for crochet. And then you're going to see a row of loops. And those are the loops that we're going to be working into as our third loop. So again, we're going to be starting with a single crochet on the beginning of our row, and then we're going to start working into our third loop. So just below this top loop, and then the space, and then our third loop. So we're going to yarn over, insert into the third loop, pull up a loop, and complete the half double crochet. Yarn over, insert through the third loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, complete the half double crochet. Continuing through each stitch all the way down the row. So that's our last loop. We've completed our half double crochet, and we're going to end with a single crochet into our turning chain. And then we're going to chain one and turn. So now we've created that same ridge of stitching on the back side. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more rows, and then we can look at the pattern that has been formed and talk about what we can use this for and what this stitch is really good for making the patterns or the projects that you can do with this. So always start and end with a single crochet, and then begin working into your third loop with half double crochets. And the reason we do that is because we're not working through the top of the stitch, and so the stitch is going to be a little bit shorter than a typical half double crochet, right? Because you're not working through here, you're coming down a level and you're working here, which makes the half double crochet that might be this tall, you're bringing it down just that much. So starting with a single crochet, ending with a single crochet keeps your work nice and even down the row. All right, coming up to the end of this row. So just as a side note, you cannot work this stitch in the round because you need the front and back pass to create the rows. So if you were just working in the round, it's just all going to look like this all the way. So it's really better if you're doing it back and forth so that you have a front pass and a back pass. So let's finish up this row with our half double crochet into the turning chain. Or sorry, not a half double crochet, a single crochet into that turning chain. Chain one, and then we turn, and now you can see how this is shaping up, where we're going to have the stitching in the front, and then we're going to have sort of a background row going all the way around. So if you're trying to create striping without changing colors, just by adding texture, this stitch is perfect for doing that. So if you are looking for projects that you can use this stitch for, I think this is absolutely gorgeous on a hat. I've seen some slouchy hats that have been made using this stitch, and they are just gorgeous. Also doing a cozy for your candle or a mason jar, like I did here. It also just so homey and perfect for this type of a project as well. So you can also use this on a scarf, which will give it like kind of like faux striping on the scarf. Would also be great. So if you wanted to do like a matching hat and scarf, the third loop half double crochet would be so perfect for that. So get creative with this and try it out on different projects. One of the best ways to release dopamine into your brain is by getting super creative and just playing around with stitching and seeing what you can come up with is a great way to do that. That really opens up those creative centers in your brain and releases really happy chemicals that just make you feel good. So we finish up this last row, and I'm going to end by doing a single crochet into the turning chain. There we go. And we can turn it around and look at the beautiful texture that we've created with the third loop half double crochet. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. And don't forget to grab your copy of the Ultimate Guide to Crochet for Your Mental Health. I will have the link to that down in the description for you as well. If you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful, please hit that subscribe button and join so you can keep up with all of my tutorials and help my channel to grow. Thank you for being here, and until next time, happy stitching.